This podcast is a work of historical interpretation. While we strive for accuracy, some aspects of history are open to interpretation and debate. Thank you for listening. Is this the headphones I usually wear? They feel weird.
Those might be the ones Dom had. But I mean, they're the same headphones.
Maybe. Sure. No, I have Dom cuties.
Oh.
Leave that part in. I'm just kidding.
I will. Don't worry. Because remember, I'm not going to edit anything this time.
Okay, can we start over?
No.
Welcome to Time Tellers. Dan?
I was looking at my sponge candy. What?
See, what's bad is you're going to mute yourself just to make me look like a crazy person.
No, I'm going to ask, why did you start already when you knew I still had sponge candy to open?
Oh my gosh. Welcome to Time Tellers, where we unravel the stories behind history's...
What's that look for?
Most notorious events. Today, we're stepping into the shadowy underworld of 1920s Chicago to explore one of the most infamous crimes in American history, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. What led to this bloody event? Who were the key players? And why does this gruesome chapter in organized crime continue to intrigue us? Let's find out. So let's set the stage.
This is intriguing.
The Prohibition era.
Oh, like that Speakeasies musical?
Yes.
That takes
or
place
the
during
Great
Prohibition?
Gatsby.
Yeah, but Speakeasies isn't out yet.
Fair. But everybody knows the Great Gatsby.
But nobody knows about any of the lake cruises that were running bootleggers between Canada and Chicago and Erie and Buffalo?
Well, now they do.
And there's a musical about it?
They probably don't know the musical. The massacre occurred against the backdrop of Prohibition, which lasted from 1920 to 1933. This is when the manufacturing of alcohol was outlawed in the United States. This created lucrative opportunities for bootleggers, or bootlegging, which is where individuals and criminal organizations smuggled alcohol into the U.S., distilled illegal liquor, like moonshine, or set up underground bars known as speakeasies.
What about speakeasies?
This gave rise to violent rivalries between organized crime fractions.
Fractions?
Not math, I meant to say factions.
Did you catch it, or did me saying to catch it?
No, I caught it, but one of my students did ask me the other day. I walked into my coworker's room and they said, I need your help. And I'm like, okay. He goes, I need your help with math. And I said, wrong teacher.
Isn't that what the internet's for?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good thing to use the internet for. So let's talk about Chicago's underworld. Chicago was a hotbed of criminal activity dominated by two major factions. We have Al Capone's outfit, based in the South Side. Capone's gang controlled bootlegging, gambling, and prostitution, using violence to eliminate rivals.
Sounds like a party.
Fun. George...
Did you just say that sounds like fun?
Oh, yes, totally. That was sarcasm.
Which part? The gambling, the bootlegging, the prostitution, or the killing?
I'd go with the bootlegging.
Oh, okay.
Then we have George Bugs Moran's Northside gang. This is Capone's main rival. Moran's gang controlled parts of the North Side and fiercely resisted Capone's expansion.
That wasn't very smart of them.
Turns out it wasn't. The rivalry between Capone and Moran intensified in the late 1920s due to territorial disputes, bootlegging operations, and revenge for previous killings. One of the key killings that set the stage for the massacre was the murder of Pasqualino Patsy Lorado. L-O-R-D-O.
I don't know my Italian pronunciation. I'm just assuming Italian, but...
Yeah.
Odds are.
In January of 1929, the Lordo was a high-ranking member of Capone's gang and served as the head of Chicago's powerful Union Siciliana, an organization with strong ties to organized crime. In addition to Lolordo, other allies at Capone, such as Antonio Lombardo, had been killed, likely by Moran's men or affiliated gangs. These assassinations deeply angered Capone and his organization. Yeah.
I wonder why they got mad.
I don't know. Maybe because they're killing people? What? I mean, gangs are gangs. They're usually violent, right? Jack Machine Gun McGurn, a key Capone enforcer, had narrowly survived assassination attempts believed to have been orchestrated by Moran's gang.
How do you get the nickname Machine Gun?
I'm assuming he was good with a machine gun. That
Kind of hard to not be, though. I mean, you just point in the general direction.
You're not wrong. I mean, I've never operated a machine gun, but I would assume I could probably hit something with it.
Yeah, you point and you pull the trigger. And yeah.
It's not a lot of skill needed, is what you're saying?
No, unless you completely suck.
This, of course, further intensified the feud. Probably especially for him. It's like, you almost killed me. In early 1929, Capone's men hatched a plan to lure Moran to the warehouse under the guise of a bootlegging deal. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre was meticulously planned, involving deception and tactical staging to catch Bugs Moran and his Northside gang off guard. The setup relied on luring Moran's men to a specific location under the guise of a routine business transaction. Here's how it unfolded.
Sounds routine to me. I mean, if that's your business.
Right, yeah. The location. So the massacre took place in a garage at the address of 2122 North Clark Street in the Lincoln Park neighborhood of Chicago. Moran's gang had used the building to store liquor shipments. So it's one of their buildings, someplace they probably went to quite often. And the bait was a promised shipment of alcohol, which makes sense why they would use this location then, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, it's where they stored liquor shipments, so. Moran's gang was reportedly lured to the garage under the pretext of receiving a large shipment of high-quality bootleg whiskey. Is that an oxymoron, though? High-quality bootleg whiskey?
Well, I mean, anything. I mean, bootleg just means it's not official.
Not
so,
official.
I mean,
okay, fair.
You can't argue that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Could definitely be high quality. Could be higher quality
than the official stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Makes
than what you're
sense.
drinking right now, it could be amazing.
I'm drinking Monster. It's not liquor.
Monster whiskey?
Oh my gosh, if they started making whiskey.
Have you ever had... They do make alcoholic Monster. It's disgusting.
I don't know if I've ever had that.
I think I still have half a case of it.
Because it's that bad. You
Yeah,
only
that's-
drank some of it.
It was like, there's...
Sorry, Monster.
Yeah, there's
I
like
like your
4
energy
flavors
drinks.
in it. And I tried one of each flavor.
Maybe you even brought me.
I might have. But it was not good.
We like your energy drinks, though, so sponsor us anytime. No.
Hey, why don't you release Mad Apple in the U.S.? I don't want us to go to England to get more of it.
Al Capone's associates likely orchestrated the deal using trusted intermediaries to ensure Moran's men were present. The crime itself. Dun, dun, dun. On February 14th, 1929, 7 Moran gang members and associates gathered in the garage. Men dressed as police officers and civilians entered and ordered the gang members to line up against the wall. This was a clever ruse, as Moran's gang would have believed the quote-unquote officers were conducting a routine arrest and thus complied without resistance. The officers, quote-unquote, opened fire with Thompson submachine guns and shotguns, killing 6 men instantly. One victim, Frank Gusenberg, survived briefly, but refused to identify his killers, saying, quote, "Nobody shot me." I want to know who nobody is. Is nobody a person? Is that like a
Maybe.
person? I mean, wait, Could be a nickname.
Yeah, that would be entertaining, actually.
Maybe he was actually saying who shot him, and we just didn't know.
Or maybe their nickname was Ghost, and that's why he would say nobody.
Oh.
Oh, boy.
Wow. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre was estimated to have taken only about 10 minutes to carry out from start to end, which I think Dan seems to think is too long. We had this discussion.
Yeah. 10 seconds, maybe?
Some of the notable victims were Peter Gustenberg and Frank Gustenberg, Moran's enforcers. I did forget to look up if they were, like, brothers, cousins. I'm assuming they were related.
Probably. See, if we had more Patreons, then you'd have more of a research budget to look these things up.
It's more time than anything. Albert, I'm going to really butcher this last name, but I'm going to try. Albert Kachelek, Kachelleek, alias James Clark. He was Moran's second in command. Reinhard Schwimmer and John May, which were associates that just happened to be caught in the crossfire. Wrong place, wrong time. The gunmen staged their escape as if it were a legitimate police operation, with the quote-unquote officers escorting their civilian accomplices out of the garage. I'm assuming people heard the gunshot, though.
No, nobody heard anything. What are you talking about?
Let's talk about Moran himself, because one name I did not mention during the massacre was Bugs Moran, because he wasn't there. So Moran wasn't there because he had narrowly avoided the massacre due to arriving late to the meeting. After spotting the supposed police officer entering the building, he would go into hiding. He just ran. One key factor contributing to the tragedy was mistaken identity. The gunman mistook one of Moran's associates, probably Albert Weinschock, for Moran. Moran resembled... Oh, I just flip-flopped those names, sorry. Weinshank resembled Moran in both build and clothing, leading the assassins to proceed with their plans, believing that their primary target, Moran, had entered the building. There's also speculation that... And this is such a thing I would do. Moran was late because he went to get coffee. And possibly left his house a little later than regular. Both small, everyday events that saved his life that day. So he was just like taking us a good old time. He's like, I need some caffeine before I go deal with this business delivery of liquor. Oh no, everybody's dead.
Oh no, it's almost like somebody told me about it, so I knew not
ahead
to do
of time?
that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. After realizing what occurred, Moran reportedly declared, quote, "Only Capone kills like that." He immediately suspected Al Capone as the mastermind behind the massacre, although Capone was in Florida at the time and was never directly implicated. After the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929, which destroyed much of his Northside gang, Bugs Moran lost his power and influence in Chicago's criminal underworld. Partly, I would suspect, because he just had to run for his life. Unable to compete with Al Capone's dominance, Moran's operations dwindled, and he turned to smaller-scale crimes like bank robberies. I love how it's smaller-scale crimes like bank robberies. What?
Well,
bank robberies are the smaller scale crimes?
Well, I mean, banks always comply. You walk in there, and you leave.
I mean, maybe?
They do.
But, like, that's definitely how to get on the FBI's radar. Although the FBI wasn't. It was still in its infancy.
Well, it would have been easy to get away with then.
Oh, yeah, a lot easier then. Yeah, for sure.
Now you just have to, never mind, I'm not saying it.
Yeah, let's not give people advice on how to commit crimes. His repeated arrests led to a prison sentence in 1946 for bank robbery.
Better than tax evasion.
Right? He spent his final years in obscurity. Moran died of lung cancer on February 25th, 1957. in Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. He was penniless and far removed from his days as a prominent gang leader. The massacre marked the downfall of one of Prohibition-era Chicago's most infamous figures. So let's talk about the investigation for a little bit, because they did attempt to investigate, I think. And I use the word attempt loosely now.
Sounds like some other investigations.
The crime scene was chaotic, with very little physical evidence besides, gunshots
And
everywhere.
Dead bodies.
And dead bodies.
But nobody saw anything.
Witnesses feared retaliation and were reluctant to talk, and I can totally understand that. I don't know. I'm not talking about the guy who survived initially. I meant, actual, witnesses on the street. Innocent people that were not involved. I can understand why they did not want to talk. I mean, there were approximately over 70 shell casings that they had.
Okay, that's 10 seconds of firing.
There was lots of blood. Lots and lots of blood.
Really?
Yes.
From what?
I don't know. Holes in the body? From bullets? That's my guess. That showed evidence that these victims had no real chance to defend themselves, because remember, they thought they were police. They thought they were just getting arrested.
As far as I know, police don't always do that.
Line you up against the wall? Or what?
And shoot you.
Yeah, not generally speaking, that's not what's supposed to happen. Authorities did suspect Al Capone's gang almost immediately, but Capone himself had a solid alibi. He was in Florida at the time. But they knew that doesn't mean he didn't have any involvement, but how do you prove it? That was the thing. Al Capone was never taken down due to violence.
That's why I made the tax evasion comment.
Yes.
And then he went and died of syphilis.
Yep, which I will talk about too.
How do you fit that in this one?
Well, I just like I kind of talk about Moran's ending. I do mention ending for Capone.
Oh. I thought you were just talking about syphilis.
Oh, not that alone, but okay.
Oh, okay, good.
So some of the theories,
That'd
the authorities had, and historians, of course, is Capone's role. Most historians agree that Capone's men orchestrated the massacre, likely led by Jack Machine Gun McGurn, who was probably really, really fired to go because he had just survived an attempt on his life.
Yeah.
Quote-unquote purple gang involvement, which I'd never heard about the purple gang. But there are some theories suggesting Detroit's purple gang who were allied with Capone. They're the ones who provided fake police uniforms and weapons, to help out. And then also an inside job theory. There's speculation that an insider tipped off Capone's gang about Moran's meeting, but that would, if they didn't set it up to begin with. Theory emerged that the killers included Fred, quote-unquote, Killer Burke, who was a known gangster, but he was never formally charged for the massacre either. Some eyewitnesses account. A nearby resident later recounted hearing machine gun fire, followed by eerie silence. Which, I'm like, how uncommon would that have been in Chicago at the time? I don't want to, speculate too much, but I would feel like, they probably knew what that sounded like. Depending.
Maybe. That was fireworks.
Another witness saw, quote-unquote, police officers calmly leaving the scene, leading to an initial confusion about whether the raid was legitimate, which was what they meant to do. Add to confusion. It's very smart.
But they had enough cops on their payroll. Why didn't they just use real ones?
Who says they didn't have some real ones?
That took part in that?
I don't know. I'm old, but I'm not that old.
You finally admit it.
Okay, the murder car. A key piece of evidence was a 1927 Cadillac sedan, which was discovered in a garage on Chicago's South Side. The car matched the description of the vehicle used by the killers to escape the scene. However, the car had been wiped clean of fingerprints, further frustrating investigators. I'm not sure how much forensics they would have had then, but fingerprints is definitely one.
That's pretty much it.
Well, that and, like, the casings left from the bullets, they knew where they came from and stuff.
Not really.
Ballistic experts matched the bullets to 2 Thompson machine guns recovered later in Michigan from members of the Purple Gang.
Those specific ones or the same model?
Well, I mean, this says they matched the bullets to two specific submachine guns.
Because that was before they started, like, making the barrels slightly different on everything for that exact reason.
Right. I don't know if they could have found a random Thompson submachine gun out in Arizona that would have matched, too. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering.
So that further boosted that theory about the Purple Gang's involvement. Despite extensive efforts, no one was ever convicted for the massacre. The lack of solid evidence and witnesses, combined with gangland secrecy, ensured that the perpetrators escaped justice. The massacre shocked the nation, highlighting the brutality of organized crime. Newspapers dubbed Capone, quote-unquote, public enemy number 1. Although, wasn't that John Dillinger? Or is that...
At one point.
Yeah. That's before, right? Ooh.
No, that was after.
Was it after?
Because that was when they had the Untouchables and Elliot Ness and all that stuff.
Well, and that's who took down Capone eventually, but that...
Yeah, but I mean, I think that was when Al Capone had gone back.
I mean, John Dillinger was killed 1934. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
That was a full-on hit.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, it was...
It's a similar time.
By the FBI, but it was a hit.
Yeah, for sure. Same era, though.
Yeah.
Newspapers nationwide covered the story extensively, publishing graphic descriptions and images of the crime scene. The dramatic nature of the event made it front-page news. Yeah, we didn't censor, like, violence back then. Ever.
Sure we did.
No newspapers. The massacre intensified the growing discontentment with Prohibition, which again lasted from 1920 to 1933, as many people saw it as a driving force behind the rise of organized crime. And they're not wrong. Citizens began demanding more decisive action from law enforcement and government officials to combat gang violence and corruption. In other words, we've had enough. We have had it up to here. We're fed up.
Wait, how far was that again?
That right here.
Ah, okay.
Up to my eyebrows. We have up to my eyebrows.
And you're sitting down, so that's not very far.
It's not very far standing up, but...
Was that a short joke?
Yes, and I am short. The massacre dealt a significant blow to Moran's gang, consolidating Capone's control over Chicago's bootlegging operations. However, it also intensified law enforcement's efforts against organized crime, because you cannot commit a massacre of this magnitude and not get on law enforcement's radar. And I don't mean the local police, because this was national news. This was everywhere. So let's talk about Al Capone's after this and his downfall, because Al Capone was arrested and convicted for tax evasion, not his violent crimes. In 1931, just 2 years later, after the federal government, led by Treasury agent Elliot Ness and his team of quote-unquote untouchables, failed to tie him to violent crimes, they used forensic accounting to uncover that Capone had not paid taxes on his illicit income from bootlegging, gambling, and other criminal enterprises. In October of 1931, Capone was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison, fined $50,000 in order to pay back taxes plus court costs. His conviction marked one of the earliest successful tax law uses to bring down a high-profile criminal. What do they say? Follow the money?
Yeah.
So that $50K That would equal about $1,038,174.34. I'm just saying. Because the dollar had an average inflation rate of 3.28 per year between 1931 and today. That's a lot of money. Plus his back taxes and court costs, whatever those were.
I still have to finish my taxes this year.
Me too. Al Capone was incarcerated at the famous Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary from August 22, 1934 to January 6, 1939. That was not his first jail. He was transferred to Alcatraz to isolate him from his Chicago connections and reduce his influence within the prison system, as he had been manipulating guards and inmates in previous facilities such as the Atlanta Penitentiary.
Yeah?
I'm just saying.
And his nice hotel room in Alcatraz?
Not Alcatraz. In the other penitentiaries, yes.
I thought he had one in Alcatraz, too.
I don't think it was to the level he did before.
No, but I thought it was still nice.
Maybe. However, he did not die in the penitentiary. Capone struggled with declining health at Alcatraz due to neurosyphilis, which began affecting his mental capacity. By the time he was released in Alcatraz in 1939, he was severely weakened. He was later transferred to Terminal Island in California to serve the remainder of his sentence for a short period before his early release in November 1939. He would die on January 25th, 1947 at age 48. He passed away at his estate in Palm Island, Florida, due to complications from a stroke and pneumonia. The massacre has been dramatized in films, books, documentaries, symbolizing the violence and corruption of the Prohibition era. So some movies. There's the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which was 1967.
And what's that about?
Oh, it's a dramatized semi-documentary portrayal of the massacre and the gang rivalry between Al Capone and Bugs Moran.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's actually what it's about?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like a semi-documentary.
Yeah, the name actually makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Some Like It Hot. Is that the one with Marilyn Monroe? Some Like It Hot? I don't know. This is a comedy featuring a gangland shooting inspired by the massacre.
I know, and it was also a great musical.
That's right. And, of course, Scarface. There's two Scarfaces. One from 1932, but the one everybody thinks of is 1982.
That's no relation.
Scarface itself, just because that was Al Capone's nickname.
Yeah, the movie, no.
But the movie, I know, it's a stretch. It's a stretch. But the 1932 film was directly inspired by Capone. I never saw this, but Boardwalk Empire? Is that...
The series?
Yeah, the HBO series depicting Prohibition-era organized crime.
That was decent.
Did it have Al Capone in it?
I don't remember.
Because I don't know either, but... Because I feel like I would like this movie, but this was before I had access to HBO anything.
Well, don't you have the HBO app?
I think we do now.
Well, then watch it.
With all of my free time.
Watch that and The Sopranos.
I did see some of The Sopranos.
All of it.
And there was a series called The Untouchables. For some reason, I remember seeing an episode or two of this, but from 1959 to 1963. Books, I mean, there's tons. Tons, including Al Capone, or Capone Washed My Shirt. Like, there's a whole series, like young adult children's book series. Al Capone Ironed My Shirts or something. But, yeah, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, written in 2007 by William J. Helmer and Arthur J. Billick. Capone, The Man in the Era, 1994 by Lawrence Bergreen. And Get Capone, 2010 by Jonathan Igg, which is more recent. Documentaries, we have The Making of the Mob, Chicago, which was put out in 2016. An American Justice documentary, but this is 1996, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. sure there's many others. There are some other references. As you mentioned, the Godfather series, although it's not a direct reference. The location today. The garage itself was demolished back in 1967. However, the site remains a point of interest for crime enthusiasts. Bricks from the original wall have been displayed in museums and private collections. In fact, that's the image I have for the artwork for this episode, is a bullet hole in a brick.
Is it from your private collection of
Yes, in my private collection.
Bricks with bullet holes in them?
Yes, I have so many of them. So the massacre itself underscored the need for the stronger federal response to combat organized crime. This would eventually lead to the rise of federal law enforcement agencies like the FBI as a major force in fighting organized crime, and apparently the IRS. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre remains a grim reminder of the violent legacy of Prohibition and the ruthless ambition of organized crime. It is a story of power, betrayal, and the high cost of unchecked greed. Thanks for joining me, Renee, and Dan, because I forgot to do any introductions at the beginning of this.
Again, go figure.
On Time Tellers. If you enjoyed this episode or want us to do more crime-related episodes, I'm totally down with that, although we are not a true crime podcast.
I got some good crime ones.
I'm scared.
Well, no.
Historical crime, maybe.
Yeah.
No?
Only from a couple years ago.
Be sure to contact
today.
us and let... Today? I did nothing. I'm innocent. I want a lawyer. Let us know. Follow. Give us a like. Comment. 5 stars. Something about that. I don't know. Apparently, our viewership went up.
Oh, yeah, 60 whatever percent. Our viewership definitely did.
Our listenership? What do you call it?
I don't know. You're in charge.
Well, you're the one who got the stat from Podbeam.
Yeah, that's because I got my email.
And it said we went up from December to January 68%.
Yes.
It is now February, but that's good news.
Yeah.
So we appreciate those who are listening to us. Let's see, just a quick current events, because we did have the tragic shooting yesterday in Sweden, which is an unusual country to have a mass shooting in.
Yeah, I know. It's not like it's America.
So on February 4th, a tragic shooting occurred at an adult education center in Örebro, Sweden. I probably said that wrong. Resulting in 11 deaths, including the attacker. There is going to be a memorial service, or there was today, attended by Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson, King Carl Gustaf, and Queen Sylvia. Authorities are still investigating the motive behind the attack. And yeah, it's not common to see these type of events happen.
Anywhere that's not the U.S.
You're not wrong. U.S.-wise, there are protests against Elon Musk access to government data.
I don't know why.
Democrats and protesters rallied outside the U.S. Treasury Department to protest Elon Musk's access to sensitive financial data through his Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE. DOGE. D-O-G-E.
Doge.
Doge? Did I say it wrong?
Yeah.
Sorry.
He ripped off Dogecoin for it. That's why he called it that.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but okay.
Dogecoin, it's cryptocurrency.
I don't know anything about cryptocurrency. I really don't.
Have you ever seen the meme where it's that smiling dog?
Well, concerns have been raised about potential risks to personal data due to Doge's involvement in federal operations. That is what they were protesting at the U.S. Department of Treasury. So I just wanted to we won't always do current events, but I wanted to throw those in there, especially since this should come out on February 11th, so in just a couple of days. Today is February 6th that we were recording this. Okay. So if you appreciated the show, join us again next time we'll have a
special tiny coming out on the 13th about Valentine's Day, a history. Be sure to keep uncovering the stories behind history's darkest moments, even if they're not the best of times.
I'm just going to hit stop now.
Good idea.
Because that